things first, I'm gonna remove all of that. It's like a ton of buildup. It's a ton here as well. I'm gonna be using Moss Beware and then the moss off spray. But after I clear all this out, something like this, I just pick it up. It just does a wet spot right there. It goes underneath it. Like for here, see how it's lifting up the actual shingle itself. It's where air would hit it and pop it up. So I'm gonna remove all that. So for this one, I just use a scraper, and I'm just gonna scrape off all this moss. As you can see, it's just coming straight up. I'm gonna repeat that process through this entire roof. The buildup is actually, it doesn't look like much, but it's really a lot. And I'm gonna use just a scraper, and then I'm gonna use my fingers, and I'm gonna go down through every row until I got all of it off. It is building up really quickly, so I got a trash bag set up there. As you can see, that corner was like fairly easy to get under, and it's looking a lot better. It's a lot of it, so I got to continuously just keep doing the same thing over and over. See, that's the buildup. I pick it up, put it in the trash bag, and continue on ripping off as much as I can. I'm not gonna dig into it because you don't want any of that actual gritty part of the actual sandpaper to come off. But it's the buildup's been there for a second, so it is attached to the shingles. As you can see, the shingles themselves, they're just covered in it, the entire portion of this. So I'm gonna go side by side. I did a really small portion. It took a little bit, but as you can see, it looks amazing now that it's all the moss is off. So the first thing that I'm gonna do is get my actual blower and blow off all the excess moss that's on there. It's the tiny little crumbs that are left over from the actual scraper. So I'm gonna blow everything down instead of actually using the broom, because the broom is gonna scrape against the actual shingles themselves. You can see the bag is full. It's about 30 to 40 pounds of nothing but moss, and that's alone. If you don't take it out and you just go ahead and spray it or do whatever, you're not gonna visually see any improvement until you actually go out and scrape through all the moss and stuff like that. So you can see that the actual moss itself, I scraped it all off. It's the bag's full. Another coffee. Yeah, I needed a coffee to actually finish doing that. It's low T over here. So yeah, I'm gonna get the actual blower, put my tools off to the side as far as I can, and I'm glad that the homie had this DeWalt blower. I don't have a blower in my DeWalt collection, which is probably going to be one of my next investments as far as DeWalt. I really like DeWalt tools, especially their new batteries that are coming out. They're a lot more compact. I'm still gonna keep my older batteries because I have some like really big 12 amp ones, 9 amp ones, and I like the way that the weight feels. I mean, it's heavy for some people, but for me, I really don't mind because the weight's not that bad for me. I like the actual weight of them, especially for my 1/2 inch or my 3/8. I like the way they're weighted down. But the smaller batteries, they're lighter and they're a lot more powerful. So I mean, there's a plus to them. It doesn't mean I'm not gonna use them, but I'm not gonna sell my 12 amp just because it's heavier. I'm not gonna sell it cheaper. I'm actually gonna keep it until it actually blows up or stops charging or something crazy, because I'll lose money if I just get rid of all my batteries. But definitely this blower is freaking awesome. You see, like, I'm just going through it. It's just blowing everything through. It's not scraping or taking any of the actual sandpaper on the actual shingles, so that's a plus. I thought that was cool as hell. And so far, I still haven't sprayed it down, but I gotta get my attachment ready. It attaches to the hose itself, and you're supposed to evenly distribute it across the actual shingles down the roof. I would start at the top because this spray is gonna start at the top. It foams up really fast, and you want it to spray down. So it'll be a waste if you spray down going up, because gravity works the opposite. It works from the top to the bottom. So you hit the nozzle. Once you hit the actual nozzle and turn it, you'll turn the nozzle and it'll start foaming immediately. So that's when this is activated. You only have a limited time, so use it wisely. This was just for me so I can show you how it foams up and looks, but I'm not really gonna go through an entire section that I'm doing. I'm just gonna go off and start on the far end of the roof, and I'll spray evenly starting with the top and see how it's running down. If you spray it at the bottom, it's not gonna run up because of gravity. So common sense, use it if you have it. So if you have common sense, spray at the top, let it run down to the bottom, and continue spraying like that until it you see that foam. That reaction right there is the actual moss itself reacting with the actual chemical in the water that's being sprayed in there. It looks really good once your entire roof is covered with this stuff, because it is water, but it does have a chemical agent inside of it that is going to kill the moss and protect your roof further down. Not only am I using this moss off spray on my roof, I'm going to go ahead and use Moss Beware. So on top of this, this Moss Beware is a powder. Once I do the actual the moss, well, yeah, it is moss off, but Moss Beware is an additional protection that I use for the actual roof itself. It's a powder. It falls in between the actual shingles. It kind of blends in or mixes in with the actual dirt. If you didn't know, dirt falls on top of your roof as the wind carries it, and it falls in between the cracks of your shingle. So this is going to be an additive protection. It does rain a lot in Washington, so the actual rain is going to cover it and it's going to blend its way in. I would go heavy on the top, and then as far as you go down, I would go a lighter. But you can see that with just the moss off spray, that it is looking a lot better. Some of those little fragments did come off with the actual water, but as you can see, it's really shiny, and all those parts where it's extra shiny or white or mossy looking, it's the actual moss off the spray itself. It's actually picking that up and removing it. It's almost like popping it out. It works in combination with the rain though, so that protective. So you can see that I'm going thicker as far as the actual top of the roof, and then I'm going to work my way down to the bottom. The actual bottom of it, I'm going to go lighter because the rain is going to hit the actual top of the roof. It's going to run down the shingles, and this powder is going to mix up with the actual water itself, and it's going to go into the actual smaller crevices. As you can see, the shingles have splits going up through the middle of them, and those splits is where the dirt mixes up and most of the moss is at. It looks like it snowed early in my house, but it definitely rains a lot in Washington. I got to re-emphasize that. So the extra rain is going to make this go away in a day or so. You can see that I evenly covered it as much as I could. I went thicker in the top and lighter in the bottom because it is going to run down. And I went the most on this side because this is where I had the most moss. I'm going to give you a little close-up here. In this close-up, you can see that the actual powder itself falls in between those cracks and where that actual moss is at, and it blends in really good, and it actually attaches to it better than the actual liquid moss off. So I use both of them. They're different brands, obviously Moss Off and Moss Beware, but I found that Moss Beware was on sale when I was in the store, so I'm cheap. Yeah, I got it. I'm not rich. I'm not packing it like that. Now this other roof, I'm going to do the same thing. You can see that most of the moss itself is on there because of the tree, and the other side gets more sunlight. The same thing for this. You can see the most sunlight comes over here. There's not that much moss. And that one little corner right there where the moss is built up the most is where it gets the wettest and it gets the least amount of sun. On the other side, I didn't do that much work. I basically just scraped it off and hit it with the spray. Most of the entire powder, an entire bottle, I think it was 2 bottles of Moss Beware, went into that. I love the leaf blower because it got the job done really fast and it was really easy to use. Most definitely, I'm going to get another DeWalt tool pretty soon.